Quinshon Judkins led the SEC in rushing touchdowns in 2023 before transferring to Ohio State to play alongside TreVeyon Henderson. As an incredibly physical bruising back that still has some athleticism and explosivity, he offers a true three-down skill set, but can be limited sometimes in terms of his ability to put all of this together on the field. So, let's take a little bit of a look at Judkins and see how I found watching his tape. It was a massive surprise when Judkins announced his intention to transfer to Ohio State, just because TreVeyon Henderson was already in the backfield, and these were two of the most exciting prospects in college football at the running back position. But they do play the game relatively differently, and they formed an incredibly exciting tandem. But it's always going to be, there's always going to be comparisons of the two, just because they are in the same backfield. Judkins is a much more physical player, as you can see from that height and weight compared to Henderson, and I think that really showed on film. He has a lower yards per carry than Henderson, who was a more electric and explosive back, but much more proficient in the red zone due to that bruising physicality. At Ohio State, and this is something that's going to translate into the NFL as well, Judkins and Henderson really formed a thunder and lightning combination. So Judkins is an incredibly physical back, and he's got that prototypical size, and he really plays up to it. So this is someone who plays very low to the ground with a great center of gravity, has an incredible ability to just absorb contact and keep going. And I think he has a very urgent running style as well. I think he looks like every single time he hits the field, he is ready to get the ball and ready to hit those holes. We've seen him be a fantastic red zone threat. I mean, that makes sense given the style of player that we are talking about him. But I think he does have good vision and patience as well to kind of set up blocks in front of him, and the athleticism is good. I'm less high on the athleticism than some people I've seen scout. I don't think he quite has the top end long speed, and I think he does have sort of an impressive kind of burst, but I think the lateral agility isn't quite there to the way that I'd wanted to see it. But he is an incredibly exciting prospect, and I think that contact balance and aggression is really the main thing that's going to really excite an offense as a short yardage back, as a power back, but also with the ability to work in a three-down way. So we have seen him with relatively soft hands coming out of the backfield. He is a relatively strong player, quite good at the ability to kind of turn and cut and work through his holes. And that frame is going to be the most exciting thing about Judkins for me, in that ability to just grind out a defense. If you are enjoying this video, please consider dropping a like and a subscribe. Comment down below your thoughts on Judkins. There's going to be so much more rookie content on this channel over the rest of the off-season, but especially in these profiles that I'm doing at the minute. But let's take a little look at the weaknesses of Judkins' game. So the main weakness for me comes in terms of that fantastic physicality, and I think he relies slightly too heavily on this rather than actually looking at the lanes that are in front of him sometimes. I think he shows an ability to go, I'm bigger than you, I'm going to run you over. And in the NFL, that's probably not going to translate in the same way. He is incredibly physical, and I think he will show a good ability to remain aggressive in the NFL, but I think sometimes you need to look at taking what's there instead of just trying to initiate contact at the first attempt. I think he lacks the long end, the top end long speed to truly break away from pursuers where he does find a hole. I do think the athleticism's good, but I don't think it's quite as elite as we want it to be. I think his route running has showed a little bit of room for growth as well. I think he's a good route runner. I think he's not functioned as the third down back in this offense because he's not the best catcher or pass protector on the team, but I think when he gets to the NFL, he does have a three-down workload, or three ability to be a workhorse back. But I think the route running is gonna need a little bit more time in order to develop. I think this is something that he's not actually particularly strong at. So I think there's going to be a little bit more in terms of growing as a receiver. And then I don't think he's the best pass protector currently. Now, obviously, this is something that does take backs off the field on third down, but obviously there's room to grow at that. A lot of players aren't fantastic pass protectors through their time in college, so that wouldn't be too much of a dampener on any prospect if they're not a great pass protector at this point in time. So I currently have my playstyle comp for Quinshon Judkins as Brian Robinson, which I think is going to upset some people because I think people think he has a higher top end outcome than Brian Robinson, and I think he probably does. But I think in terms of that incredible physicality and ability to work through the running game, a lot of times we see sort of those top end running backs mostly talked about as receivers, but that ability to grind out extra yards, it's a skill set that's still incredibly vital. Someone that can work through the receiving game, can be a three down back, but isn't necessarily going to excel in the passing game. So if you do have a passing game specialist, they can potentially take some work off of them. But I think, that contact balance, that aggression, and that sort of top end prototypical size is something that reminds me of Robinson. You can let me know down below if you completely disagree with this and if you see him as kind of a more top end playstyle comparison. Remember, it's playstyle, not sort of ceiling comparison. In terms of projected draft value, the same with a lot of running backs in this class. Mid to late second, him and Henderson are both predicted around the 60s currently, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them go higher or lower. I know that's not particularly controversial, but I can see a team potentially falling in love with Judkins. I can also see him slipping if he ends up being drafted around the RB5 or 6. And then the same in terms of rookie drafts. It's going to depend on your rankings. He's currently slotting in for me at running back 5, but that's still kind of mid to late first round in then one quarterback, and then towards the end of the first round in a super flex league. That is going to do it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on Judkins below. Who do you have higher, Judkins or Henderson? That's going to be the big debate of this off season. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you